How can anyone, whether they want to work in a language school or privately from their own laptop anywhere in the world, create a rewarding and impactful career teaching English as a second language, even if they are just starting out or have no teaching experience or ability? Hi, my name is Lynette Kim, and here on the TESOL Talk podcast, I aim to answer that very question.
The first time that I taught English as a second language online, it was like over 10 years ago now. Feels like ages. And it was an absolute disaster. There's just no other way to describe it. I had Skype on an iPad or something, or second monitor on the side, and then I had my desktop with the platform for teaching on. It was a school's platform in front of me, and I had looked at the lesson. I knew what the lesson was. I'd read through all the information that the recruitment person had given me from the language school. So I'd read it all and understood it intellectually, but it's a whole other thing when you actually are doing it. So there I am. I got the platform in front of me. I think there was something like 18 students, because you have a little thumbnail for each student. Well, we did it with this school. And so I had all these little thumbnails up there with the students. I had the PPT lesson, which was up on the platform where I could just scroll through. I could use one of those digital pen things and highlight stuff. And so I started the lesson off, and even though I'd read the instructions, I clicked all the thumbnails and opened up all the little mics for all the students, because I just did it automatically without thinking. And anyway, there was this unholy electrical noise, interference noise. There was voices. There was noise in the background. There was cats meowing in the background. There was all kinds of people turning on water taps and eating sounds, because the students were all doing things in the backgrounds, because normally all their microphones are switched off. And so it was crazy. So in amongst this craziness, it's not like I could stop. I had to keep teaching as if nothing was wrong. So I had the PPT up, and I'm going through introducing the lesson, and I'm talking to the students as if everything was normal, trying to keep calm. In the meantime, I'm glancing over to my right where the Skype was, and the school, they have the recruitment officer, was on the Skype saying, shut the mics. And I'm reading this, shut the mics, and I'm trying to also, while I'm reading that, read the template and still take the lesson, because these students were all there. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me, yes, shut the mics. So I started shutting down the mics of all the students. And within 10 minutes, I'd gotten on top of it. And I continued. It wasn't like I started. I had to keep continuing like nothing had happened. And then I was practicing opening up a mic to ask a student a question, and then closing it down again, and all this stuff. And I got to 30 minutes of the lesson, and I was just so overwhelmed and thought to myself, oh my God, what am I doing? This is absolute torture. And I still had the person on Skype from the school sending me little messages, just saying this and that, and, making some suggestions. And I'm like, whoa, this is so overwhelming. And it completely freaked me out. And by the time the lesson was over, thank God it was just a 40-minute lesson, I was just like, that's it. I never want to do that again. I was hating it. But I realized afterwards, I went away and, from my TESOL training, I did a self-assessment, and I sat down and I thought about it. What went wrong? Why did this happen? How can I do this better? And made myself up a list, because, this is what you learn in a TESOL course to do, is to go back and look over how you can improve. So I did that, and I realized that all the things that went wrong were things that, despite having had the training, despite having been given all the information from the recruitment from the school, I hadn't had any practice, and that was my first go. And yes, it was really, really hard, but now that I knew where I went wrong, I could fix it. So the next lesson was the next night. I knew what to do. I had everything prepared, same as before. I didn't open the mics. The Skype recruitment officer sat on the side and observed, because they do observe for a while, and was quiet. And I just went through the whole thing and took the lesson and opened mics. And I even got game and got students to talk to other students, so opening two mics and letting them have a little dialogue and a little discussion. And the lesson was just done like that. It felt like 10 minutes. By the time I went through the warm up, the introduction, the warm up, the dialogues, the vocab, the practice, all of these things, and then the review. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I've got to shut this lesson down. The 40 minutes is up. I mean, I was just about to go over and I hadn't even said goodbye to them yet or anything, and given them any sort of little homework task. So I got off and I'm like, that was amazing. And then it just got easier and it got easier and it got easier, and it got to be fun, and I got to know my students. And this was my introduction to teaching ESL. So had I just gone off of that first lesson, I would have given up and that would have been the end of it. But I did recognize that it was a learning curve and it was completely new to me. And I hadn't had a good experience with technology, because in those days you didn't do online teaching. So this was all pretty new. So I just took all of these things into consideration and knew with practice I'd get better. And that's why in the TESOL courses that we have at TESOL Australia, our international courses, we have a unit, and we also give this as a bonus with the Cert 4, teaching online. And it's a very short, succinct, it's only about 10 hours, but this unit is vital. It'll explain to you about the technology gap. It'll explain to you the good, the bad, the ugly, what can go wrong. And it does go wrong. And don't be daunted by that. And another thing that's really important as part of this unit is practice, that you do 6 30-minute sessions with an actual online school. And not just that, this isn't friendly. This is like what I went through. You go to their recruitment officer, and their recruitment officer explains to you and takes you through the process as if you were hired. So you are under pressure and you are put into that pressure cooker situation. You have to go online and you have to teach their students, and there's someone on the side watching you. I mean, when you get good, they sometimes record it and just give you feedback on recordings, but initially they watch everything like a hawk, because it's their students. They have to be sure that everything runs good. So you get that process without burning a job opportunity, because this is part of your training. And we felt this was vital at TESOL Australia, to make sure that people didn't just get training, but they actually got experience, that they can feel that they can go through this and come out the other side and know, yeah, I can do it. And now I've faced the worst. I've experienced, I've been, like tested by iron or tested by fire, however you want to put it. And now I'm confident to go out and do a job interview and talk about my experience, and actually do a trial lesson if you're asked to, and know what to expect and what's going to happen, and face it with confidence and get that job.